I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. Can your cell phone give you cancer? We'll call on Dr. Stephen Garner for answers.
People like to come up with a reason why the cancer came. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's linked in this case.
Plus, walking is good for your health, but these students are on their feet for another good reason.
Walk A Thon is really to raise awareness for health and fitness, and also to raise money for textbooks and smartboards for the school.
And painting a pretty picture and helping those in need.
The dues that are collected here is actually a donation to the St. Vincent de Paul Society.
Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Just a few days ago, the cell phone junkies among us got a disturbing wake-up call from the World Health Organization. Your phone may be putting you at risk for cancer, they say. The rumored association between cell phones and cancer is as old as the technology itself, but this time, the message does not seem to be falling on deaf ears. CNN's Nicole Collins has more.
5 billion cell phone subscriptions are estimated worldwide.
I probably hold it to my ear maybe twice a day.
Now, the World Health Organization says radiation coming from those phones could possibly cause cancer, listing cell phone use in the same category as lead, engine exhaust, and chloroform.
Sure, I'd care about it. I mean, anybody would.
Previously, the WHO assured consumers no adverse health effects had been established, but a team of scientists who reviewed studies on cell phone safety concluded otherwise. The doctor who headed the research team said in a statement released by the WHO, the conclusion means that there could be some risk, and therefore we need to keep a close watch for a link between cell phones and cancer risk. Mobile phone use is in its relatively early stages, only popular for the last 15 years. The chief of neurosurgery at Cedars-Sinai says it may take several decades of exposure before potential consequences are learned. And there is a growing chorus of concern among experts. The European Environmental Agency has pushed for more studies, saying cell phones could be as big a public health risk as asbestos and smoking.
Probably when they have more people that are affected by it, they'll probably, stop using it as much.
The cell phone industry maintains there is no conclusive proof of danger. For now, experts suggest using a headset or speakerphone to avoid possible health risks.
That was CNN's Nicole Collins reporting. So, will the warning from an expert panel of 31 scientists make people think twice before putting that cell phone up to their ear? Well, I'm here with NET's very own Dr. Steve Garner, the expert on these sorts of things. I like to ask the doctor when I have these problems come up.
I'm glad you didn't call me.
There you go. I know. I could be putting myself at risk if I do that. Of course, Dr. Garner is a host of Ask the Doctor here on the Net. But so, what do you say, Doctor? Is this in that piece from Nicole Collins from CNN that we just saw there, they're kind of putting this in the same category as lead, as engine exhaust, as chloroform, those types of things. What do you think? Is there really a danger here?
Not really, and I think the best evidence is that there are 5.5 billion cell phone users, and there has not been an increase in brain cancers. So this one study showed a 30 to 40% increase, but the study had a lot of flaws. It relied on people's remembrances, and it was skewed in the wrong way. I feel it was to make it look like it was worse. All the other studies, thousands and thousands of studies, have shown no association.
Sure. So this particular study, you're saying, it relied on data that wasn't really 100% accurate.
Not reproducible, not objective. People's remembrances, and they always, after cancer, oh yeah, because I held the phone in my ear like this, and people like to come up with a reason why the cancer came. Sure. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's linked in this case. Sure.
Why do you think this, because there's been a rumor, a concern about this for some time, for really as long as I can remember cell phones being around, there's been kind of this inkling, well, that causes cancer. Why do you think that's been around?
Well, it heats up the brain. There's no doubt it does. It heats it up a little bit, and it changes the metabolism in the cells. So people say, well, if we're changing the metabolism in the cells, maybe we're going to increase the risk of cancer, because cancer is sped up metabolism, sped up reproduction of cells. Actually, some studies have shown it increased IQ, the slight heating of the brain, which is interesting. But no conclusive or reproducible studies have ever come out. I think the World Health Organization is erring on the side of caution, which is not bad. They're telling us, why using, if you can use a landline, why not? Why not hold it a half an inch from the ear? Don't let your kids use it because they have thin skulls and the brain's going to heat up more, which makes sense. So I think we shouldn't just use it with reckless abandon, even if we don't have proof now. But why not be safe? Why not carry a headset? Why not put an antenna on your car? And another trick is don't answer the phone until the call has been connected, because a lot of the radiation occurs while it's trying to connect.
Sure. So there's a spike there while it's trying to.
And when it's in a bad area, when you get it garbled, that's the worst. That's the most radiation. Again, no conclusion of cancer, but why not just be safe? It doesn't hurt us.
At least err on the side of caution and you know, take at least some precautions. Since this has happened, since the studies come out just this week, have you noticed any patients or people coming up to you saying, "Doctor, is this? I'm concerned about this."
It's been on everybody. I've gotten so many questions about it, and a lot of people are switching to headsets. Good, you know, it doesn't hurt anything. But whether you're going to get cancer for holding it to your ear, no, you're going to get a hot ear.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
I noticed that actually I carried mine. I was on the subway today and I had my earphones in and I was listening to music on my iPhone. I had it in my pocket right here. And I felt warmth right there and I was like, is my phone like catching fire? What is the deal? But it does, it gets warm. I mean, even if it's searching for a signal or whatever.
Absolutely.
So it
and
does
men,
that.
Men should not keep it in the front pocket because it has altered the motility of sperm. So it's very important not to keep that. That would be one thing that's been proven. So there's no sense in keeping it in the front pocket. Keep it in the jacket pocket or as far away from the waist as possible.
Sure, sure. And or even would it help to maybe possibly get one of those, you know, they have the belt loop things and keep that on the side?
Absolutely, if that's comfortable for you. But not to overreact, don't panic, continue to use the phone. But be cautious in general.
Sure, sure. You know, and cancer really is a serious issue. Obviously something that I think we've seen an increase in a lot of other cancers, as you alluded to earlier, but not necessarily brain cancer.
It hasn't increased.
Do you think this is maybe even a distraction from prevention of other types of cancers, or does it just increase people's awareness about cancer in general, you think?
I think it scares people. I don't think this is really, it incapacitates people. They give more importance to this than they should, whereas cancers like breast cancer that can be prevented with regular checkups are you can live with those kind of cancers. So I wouldn't get distracted. There's been no change, and even though there's been a tremendous change in the number of users, 5.5 billion worldwide. You know, just 10 years ago, it was like less than half that number. So where are all these cancers?
Sure. So bottom line, what do you think about this entire issue? Should people be afraid to pick up their cell phones and answer them?
I would never be afraid to pick up the phone. What I would do though is, if I can get a headset, fine. If I'm in the car, I'll use an external antenna or the Bluetooth.
Speaking of which.
The question is
to answer or not to answer. That is the question.
That is the question, and the answer
is.
No, I'm sorry, you have the wrong number.
Okay, the answer is to answer.
The answer is to answer. Yes.
There we go. That's a simple answer. I like it.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Stephen Gardner, I always appreciate a good visual aid
Thanks
as well. Thank you so much. Oh, we can do the elbow bump thing too.
The bump.
Yeah, there we go.
You will.
Let's get it. There we go. The fist bump, the elbow bump, the handshake.
Any final one.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gardner.
Be well.
Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well, there is much more currents coming up. Does the Today Show's Matt Lauer have some stiff competition for the anchor chair from a local New York bishop? We'll have that story, plus the rest of today's headlines, next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, art that's not just for art's sake. But first, let's have a look at today's headlines. Well, New York's Archbishop had the eyes and ears of the world earlier today when he appeared on the Today Show live from the Vatican. During the interview with host Matt Lauer, Archbishop Timothy Dolan answered questions on a number of topics, including the recently released John Jay report on sexual abuse by priests. Dolan said he was grateful to see the report showing celibacy is not a factor for abuse. He was also asked about a statement he previously made that he wants the abuse scandal to haunt the church.
This is the kind of thing that it was so horrible, so tragic, so nauseating that we got to keep remembering it so that the steps toward purification and renewal that are going on within the life of the Catholic Church continue. This just isn't some issue that, oh good, now that's over with, let's get on with life. This is an issue that's got to continually haunt us because we can't let up our vigilance. We can't let that happen again.
Well, Dolan was also asked about numbers that show 1 in 10 Americans say they are ex-Catholics and that 42% of Catholics don't attend Mass weekly. Dolan said that maybe the church should do some type of marketing to find out why people are leaving. Well, back in this country, the Bishop's Secretariat for Child and Youth Protection has a new leader. Deacon Bernard Nohadera of the Diocese of San Jose, California, is the new director of the office. Nohadera has led his diocese office for child protection since 2002. He'll begin in his new role at the Bishop's Conference on August 15th. Closer to home, a new poll from Quinnipiac University shows a majority of New Yorkers support legalizing same-sex marriage. According to the poll, 58% of New Yorkers support it, 36% oppose. Democrats and independents are more likely than Republicans to support same-sex marriage. A vote on a bill could come before the end of the legislative session this month. Governor Andrew Cuomo, though, says that won't happen unless he knows the bill has enough votes to pass. The New York State Catholic Conference has encouraged people to contact their legislators to tell them to oppose the bill. Well, a convicted sex offender who was fired from a Queens Catholic school faces jail time now for stealing thousands of dollars from that school. Last month, Joseph Denise pleaded guilty to forging and cashing close to $8,000 in checks that belonged to St. Mel's in Flushing. Well, today he was sentenced to between 5 and 10 years in jail. Earlier this year, St. Mel's school officials fired Denise after the parish discovered that he violated diocesan rules by engaging in inappropriate banter on a social networking site. Around that time, officials also discovered that in June of 2010, he pleaded guilty to a number of charges, including sexual offense with a minor. Now, back in January, a spokesman for the diocese said that Denise had gone through the proper training and had been given a background check back in 2005. Well, an Indiana law that bans abortion providers from getting federal money may face a big obstacle: the federal government. Erica Fly reports why Indiana officials see no problem with the law.
When I offered this amendment, we made we did a lot of inquiries and a lot of fact checking to make sure that this was legal, and we in fact think it is legal.
Scott Schneider wrote the bill that is now Indiana law, prohibiting Medicaid funds from going to places that perform abortions. He takes issue with the ruling from the Department of Health and Human Services that the law is illegal. It found the plan violates the freedom of choice provision of Medicaid that states Medicaid programs may not exclude qualified health care providers from offering covered services just because they also offer services that are not covered, such as abortions.
We gave any provider of Medicaid services the option of whether or not they wanted to perform abortions or not. And if they continue to perform abortion, then they don't receive taxpayer subsidies. And, Planned Parenthood has the option. We gave them that option.
6 News caught up with Governor Daniels to get his take.
We haven't changed services at all. We're going to spend every dollar, maybe more, that we would have anyway. This is only about whether one specific provider gets that money or gets any of that money or not.
Betty Cockrum, the president of Planned Parenthood of Indiana, sent us a statement saying it is right that the federal government take action against Indiana and set an example for other states seeking to adopt this type of harmful legislation. The plan to defund Planned Parenthood has been the center of a heated debate in Indiana and around the country, drawing protests at the Planned Parenthood Center on North Meridian and at the State House. Both the governor and the state's Family and Social Services Agency says they'll look to the Attorney General's office for guidance on how to proceed.
I don't think anybody knows what the legal meaning of this letter is. I certainly don't.
That report from Erica Fly. Well, a soon-to-be-released report says condoms are not working to stop the spread of AIDS. The report, set to be published by the Catholic Truth Society, says that in countries where condoms are heavily promoted, AIDS infections have risen the most. The report says the rate of infection has fallen in countries where monogamy and fidelity in marriage are encouraged. Matthew Hanley, a public health expert who previously worked for Catholic Relief Services, authored the report called The Catholic Church and the Global AIDS Crisis. Just last week, the Vatican hosted a conference to look at ways to best help AIDS patients. Well, less than a week after the citizens of Malta voted to legalize divorce, a new poll shows half of Filipinos favor divorce. Malta and the Philippines, both of which are overwhelmingly Catholic countries, are the only 2 countries besides the Vatican in the world in which divorce is not allowed. The president of the Philippines has said legalizing divorce is not a priority. He has come under fire, though, this year for supporting a bill that would provide taxpayer funding for artificial contraception, something that the bishops of the Philippines oppose. Well, this weekend, for the first time, Ireland will host a World Atheist Convention. The convention will begin tomorrow and run through this Sunday. Among the featured speakers, prominent British atheist Richard Dawkins. The website for one of its sponsors says the convention is sold out. And Italian prosecutors have ordered the release of $33 million seized from the Vatican Bank. That came after the Vatican issued new anti-money laundering and anti-terror financing guidelines. Italian officials seized the money last September after alleging the bank allowed a money transfer without identifying the sender or the recipient. The Vatican denied wrongdoing and said that the situation was just a misunderstanding. Two officials who were placed under investigation have not been charged. Well, stay with us. There's much more currents ahead. When we return, these boots are made for walking and raising money for a local Catholic school.
It's very much for all of us, so like we can do a lot of stuff for our school and we can be helpful, mostly.
Welcome back. Well, as an on-again, off-again thespian myself, an actor, no one understands how, I don't do that on stage. No one understands how critical motivation is to creating a convincing character on stage. You know, it is a much ridiculed cliche, but any actor worth his or her salt should be asking, maybe not necessarily this way, but asking this question or a very similar one: what is my motivation? What's my character's motivation? Well, how about I throw that question right back at you? What motivates you? Or more specifically, what would motivate you to get up off the couch, lace up your sneakers, and walk? Last week at Immaculate Conception School in Astoria, Queens, the students traded in their school uniforms and dress shoes for t-shirts and sneakers. Their motivation? Well, health played a part in it, of course, but as they exercised their legs, it was the future of their school that was on their minds.
Today we're having a Walk A Thon, and the Walk A Thon is really to raise awareness for health and fitness, and also to raise money for textbooks and smart boards for the school.
It costs almost $6,000 a child to educate during the year, and tuition only covers about $3,600 of that. And so the rest of it has to be done through fundraising.
Well, the Knights of Columbus and Pepsi-Cola sponsored our t-shirts so that we were able to buy the t-shirts. We didn't have to spend money on that. But the rest of the money is coming from the students. They go out and they'll ask family, friends, neighbors. They'll go to the vendors in the area and ask them to help sponsor.
Most of us brought in like $50. Each kid had to bring $50, but some of them brought more. I feel very happy and proud to walk my school. I mean, we're doing it for a good cause to get sponsors.
Are you walking? What are you doing?
Walking.
We don't get any money from the government, so it doesn't, we're trying to make up for what the government does not do to help us. So I would that the government did help us a little bit, giving us tuition tax credits or something. But there's they interpret the separation of church and state to be a license to not care about, you know, the education of kids that are in religious schools.
Well, we're very tired, but we can still handle it. We can handle it.
We're going to raise about $10,000. This is 100% profit for us. Most of our fundraisers are only like 40 to 50%, but this is 100% profit, and we do use it for everything goes to buy textbooks or technology for the school. We're
trying to upgrade all the classrooms to have smart boards and in some cases smart tables, so that it was a very interactive, modern approach to education, and we'd like to be at the cutting edge of all that. So we are trying to equip each of our classrooms with that capability.
It's very much for all of us, so like we can do a lot of stuff for our school and we can be helpful, mostly.
They look forward to this day because it's fun, and they get a nice breakfast, they have a nice walk, they get out of school, which is always a great thing for kids. And we've gotten this beautiful day, so it's a great time to walk and great time to enjoy each other's company.
We're going to try our best and have a good walk-a-thon.
They were singing and everything along the way. Looked like they had a lot of fun. And they did have a big walk-a-thon, and all that walking really did pay off in a lot more ways than just burning off some calories or something like that. The school met and exceeded their original fundraising goal, marching their way to a whopping $13,000 total. Yeah. Well, stay with us. There's much more currents ahead. Coming up, filling a canvas with color and filling hearts with hope.
Everybody needs help sometimes, and it doesn't matter who you are. You should still contribute. It's something that's helping people.
Well, finally tonight, there are many things I may have revealed about myself over the years anchoring this show, but here's something I've never revealed about myself. I am a big fan of the comedian Steve Martin. You know, from The Jerk to the Three Amigos to every movie in between. Actually, one of my favorites is All of Me. Steve Martin is just a comic genius, all right? So you can only imagine how much it hurt me to hear that the funny man turned art enthusiast was recently the latest victim of a German multi-million-dollar art forgery ring. The self-described wild and crazy guy, yes, I just did the voice, purchased Landscape with Horses by German expressionist painter Heinrich Kampendonck in 2004 for $850,000. Now, 2 years later, Martin sells the painting through Christie's auction house, only to learn now that the colorful work of art was a fake. Okay, lesson learned. And you know, art collecting can be a very risky business, but that's certainly not the case at St. Andrew Avellino Parish in Flushing, Queens. In fact, parishioners there are creating authentic works of art from the heart. Every Saturday, men and women gather for the Oriental brush painting class, and they do their part to serve their community, one brush stroke at a time.
We started in May 2009, and I've taught them the basics of the Japanese Oriental brush painting technique. It's like a Zen technique that started in China, and it branched to Japan and Korea.
We have a great art class that meets every Saturday here at St. Andrew Avellino. However, there is a connection that they made between St. Vincent de Paul and this art class, which I was not even aware. The dues that are collected here is actually a donation to the St. Vincent de Paul Society.
Here, it's a community spirit, a gathering, a way of expressing yourself, thinking that you can't do something and you can do it. In the Oriental painting, you just take a brush and you hold it in a certain way and you fill it with black ink so that the brush actually forms the painting, and the whole idea is black and white. Now we're starting to express ourselves in color because we have permission to be able to use acrylic and watercolor. But that was the whole idea, was to learn how to do it in ink and not to sketch it beforehand.
Japanese painting, the Chinese painting is the first time I learned from Rita, and I like it a lot. It's very meditating and it brings peace.
It's good therapy for me, yes. As I keep telling people, you know, this and maybe photography and music, they're really perfect for keeping you away from a heart attack.
Marita was a very good teacher. We all started at the same level, doing bamboo trees and leaves and just using the black ink and learning how to work with the brushes. And we progressed a little bit to more difficult things, and then we started to use the color.
So as much good is being done here in teaching art, it is wonderful that they make the connection themselves, that there's greater needs in the parish as well, in Christ. To lift up the poor, to lift up the disadvantaged, is not only a question of charity, but of justice.
At present, we are helping a total of about 35 people who come down to us on a regular basis. The needs vary. Sometimes it's just a question of helping to make ends meet, but some are in dire need. And I think the spirit, too, in the parish has always been very generous. We've been very, very fortunate that way. We have people who've always gone the extra mile for us. The past 2 years now, they've been having this art class, and certainly has helped a great deal.
To be honest with you, I know about the St. Vincent de Paul from
previous, I was at the other side of the table. So I know the wonderful work they do because they've gotten me through situations. And then when things straighten out, I says, well, the best I can do is, after I tried to pay back what I had gotten, was to give my time.
Everybody needs help sometimes, and it doesn't matter who you are. You should still contribute. It's something that's helping people.
Painting with a purpose. You gotta love it. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Now, coming up tomorrow, Brooklyn lends a helping hand to the tornado-weary people of Joplin, Missouri through Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens. We'll have that story and much more coming up tomorrow night. Until then, though, be sure to visit us online over at currentsny.net. We're also on Facebook, and we are on Twitter. Stay tuned now for the season premiere of Breaking Bread. It's coming up at 8 o'clock right here on NET. For all of us at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.